Good evening, everyone. Good to see you tonight. I am Trish Regan. You're watching the Trish Regan Show, and the debate is off. Not happening. We had a feeling this might occur, right? The president said, yeah, I'm not really that interested. I'm not that interested in having a virtual debate with Joe Biden because it leaves so much room for error, right? Good to have you all here. John, good to see you. Robert, good to see you. Yes, thank you for telling me that on the Trish Intel website. They're doing some routine maintenance, so everything should be fine. We'll be back up and running very, very soon. Tony, maybe also one of these days, maybe for Christmas, you'll catch me singing. We'll see. But anyway, guys, debate's off. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed. Are you a little disappointed? I mean, it kind of was, I was looking forward to seeing round two. And I thought that, you know, the president would be extremely good at sort of outlining the policy issues that need to be outlined. And I don't think Joe Biden's very good at that. And I think that, you know, the first time around, you're just getting your feet wet. You're trying to figure out exactly how it's all going to play, what the dynamics are. And what I had wanted to see was, you know, Joe Biden really gets stuck a few times because you know he will. You know he could. And maybe it'll still happen. I mean, they still have some time. This one, it sounds like won't. But you know what? That debate moderator, I don't know if you read much about him, but it turns out he actually interned for Biden. So you're dealing with, once again, this overt bias, right, that's so on display and so frustrating to see. But I do want someone, please, someone in the media, will you just ask Joe Biden point blank, do you plan to pack the courts? It's an easy question, and you don't let him go until he answers the darn thing, right? Good to see you all again tonight. Hey, Trish, yes, Trish is back. Dave, I am back. I am back, and there is nothing that can keep me away because, you know, this is such an important time, and there are powers that are trying to do what they can effectively to silence us, whether it be our First Amendment, our right to protect ourselves, our freedom to prosper. When you look at the creep of socialism, gosh, sometimes it feels like darn right communism because they're talking about free housing, free healthcare, free education, free stipend every month. And then they're gonna cut down on your ability to think and speak freely. And it really does feel like, gosh, I don't know. Are we somehow in Venezuela, Cuba, Soviet Union? We're in danger of that, really and truly. When you think about what they're trying to do right now with their tax plan, I mean, I've gone through it in detail. They're talking about taxing investing at 40%, basically, 39 and change. I mean, capital gains at nearly 40%. Now they're saying, oh, well, you have to make a certain amount of income before you do that. Don't they understand that the minute you start limiting anybody's ability to invest because of these higher capital gains, I mean, why bother investing, right? You've already paid tax on the income. You take the income, you put it in the market, and if you make anything, by the way, you could lose it all, right? It's like Vegas out there. You could lose it all, but if you make any, they're going to take nearly 40% of it in federal taxes. Well, that's going to discourage people from actually putting money to invest, and that has a ripple effect over the entire economy. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's really not. It's not that hard. But yet they really, thank you, Jake. Like I say, I will never turn down a compliment. So thank you for that. Chris, good to see you as well this evening. Robert, yeah, no, I see what you mean on Fox. It's struggling. I think a lot of media entities right now are struggling because they're relying on advertising for their revenue, right? And if the advertisers say, we don't want in because you're saying something that's not accepted among certain, you know, groups of people, the people in charge, the elites that want one viewpoint, then you're toast. And that's what's so challenging about this place that we're in, this moment in time, because we have always, right, as a nation, really prided ourselves on the ability to think and speak freely. Our First Amendment is real stuff. And if they want to take that away from us or chip away at it in some way, shape, or form, then that's a real problem. And you see it happening in college campuses, right, all across America. It's crazy, the stories that are coming out of there. And there's really no tolerance for anything different. I mean, I feel it's as though saying I'm a capitalist is like saying I'm a bad person. I mean, you can't even be a capitalist anymore. And look, I know capitalism isn't perfect, and we've talked about that, and I'm happy to talk about it some more, but it sure as heck beats the alternative, right? And they're talking about the alternative. Think about what that would mean for us as a nation. So I talked about capital gains taxes. They're talking about raising income taxes. They're also talking about raising taxes on small businesses, not just big businesses. And by the way, the big businesses, they figure out the workarounds, right? The big businesses, that's why they were all relocating, offshoring themselves to places like Ireland that was offering 12% corporate taxes instead of 28 plus. Well, now we're going to go back to 28% under Biden and Harris. You know who that's going to hurt? It's going to hurt these small little LLCs, small individual businesses in America that can't hire the fancy accountants to figure out workarounds. So I don't like that idea. I don't like what they're proposing one single bit for our economy. And let's not forget, as they talk about sort of social justice and all these things, the social justice element of it, Barack Obama and Joe Biden had 8 years. Did they help us in terms of our race relations as I hoped they would? I think we all hoped they would. No, we saw a total deterioration because they learned how to politicize it for their own benefit. That's not good. We are one nation under God. And the sooner we get over this sort of divisive left, right, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, I don't care. I mean, the sooner we get over that, the better off we're all going to be, because we really should be, and we are, a meritocracy at our heart, right? Where we're effectively colorblind. And it's like you can, as long as you are qualified, you should be able to get ahead. And government should be there to help people get ahead by making sure people have equal access to opportunity. But there's a whole lot of things at play there, including, dare I say, oh, I'm going to get banned for this one, right? Dare I say, family. Right? Because family matters. And every study shows that two-parent households are better predictors of success. And two-parent households are better predictors even for that couple's individual financial success over the long run. I mean, you're not supposed to say these things, and I get it. Not every marriage is meant to be. But shouldn't we start from a place of wanting some pressure in society to try and have family units? That to me seems like kind of a good thing. And when you start destroying that, it just makes it harder. It makes it harder for people and for the kids. Anyway, we've got an American coup, if you ask me, going on effectively. I mean, this 25th Amendment stuff. This is pretty wild because don't forget, she's the Speaker of the House. And when the Speaker of the House comes out and says, we're going to look at the 25th Amendment to remove the president from office. I mean, when she first said that, my immediate thought was, is he okay? I mean, has he taken a turn for the worse? Because that's a pretty bold thing to just throw out there. And it tells you that we are broken. We are increasingly broken in this. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I feel like an AT&T commercial. I think that they must be trying to. Are they trying to just shut us down? Is that what this is? For almost 10 minutes. Oh my goodness, you guys! Wow. Well, I'm going to have to start from the beginning. No debate. Is that a good thing? Did I mute the sound, or somehow the sound went off? Did it start with sound? That's the question. It started with sound, and then the sound went bye-bye. And then it was bye-bye for quite a while. Okay. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for telling me. This is, well, at least we're back up and running. I wonder when you lost me. Anyway, what I was saying was it's no debate, and that's probably at this point, I think, a little bit of a loss for America. I would have liked to have seen another debate. Did you want to see another debate? I mean, I didn't want a virtual debate necessarily, only because there's so much chance for Joe Biden, right, to have a teleprompter, have some signs up. I will check out the chat more often, John. Yes. Good. Yeah, I will. Thank you, guys. This is good advice. The YouTube thing is new for me. The YouTube thing is a whole new medium, and it's kind of neat. I must have muted it. I think that probably my hand went over here and muted it. Either that or YouTube is trying to shut me down in some way that I'm not aware of. Anyway, the debate, I do want to have a chance, I think, to see and hear the president with Biden again. It would be, the debate could be outside, David. That's a great idea. Just put it outside, and then you actually, can protect everyone the way you need to protect them. But it's not happening right now. They're saying, okay, no go. Maybe there'll be possibly another chance. This particular moderator had been an intern for Joe Biden, so hey, maybe that was meant to be the way that all worked out. Rumble, yeah, Eric Ray. I've heard really good things from my friend Dan Bongino, who's on Rumble and likes it a lot. I'll have to check that out. I am going to work on my children, Seth. They could use a little bit of an allowance. Maybe I can get them to run the microphones here. I will watch my hand because that must have been what happened. Either that or we can just blame it on YouTube, right? Anyway, I don't know if I had gotten a chance to talk to you about the other big thing, which was my concern here about an American coup. I mean, my goodness, Nancy Pelosi introducing the 25th Amendment. I mean, this is kind of wild. I mean, I feel like this is Banana Republic territory. You're talking about taking a president out of office. I mean, she'll never get anywhere on this. She's not even going to get to first base, but it's a nice, shiny distraction, I guess, from the other things that are going on, right? Dog Ken says, I want a fair debate. The moderator is biased, Claudia, saying, yeah, I do think that the moderator had his own biases. I've heard good things about him, but, look, you can't get away from the fact that the guy interned. He interned and he was communicating with Mooch. Exactly, Anthony. And so all of these are some pretty wild things. Katie, I think it's crazy to do it. I really do. I don't think that this 25th Amendment stuff makes any sense. And I think actually it's going to backfire on her politically, right? Because Americans, we voted for the guy, all right? And the election's like 3 weeks away. And if we don't like him, we'll vote him out. But why are you going to try and take him out of the position for us? That's a little far-fetched and very Banana Republic-like. Perhaps it is. I think someone just said about Hillary starting the whole Russia thing. David, it could actually be a distraction, right? Because the president is now saying he's going to unleash, they're going to declassify all of these records. And so by declassifying that, there's going to be a lot of material, right, for reporters to go through. So perhaps this is her counterattack, but I don't like it. I really don't. Pelosi's days could be numbered. We'll see. I mean, her district loves her, though, right? San Francisco, think about the poor hairdresser there, the hairstylist who had to shut down her salon because she was so badly attacked after just coming forward with the fact that Nancy Pelosi wasn't wearing the mask inside the salon when she's telling everybody and their cousin to wear a mask. 25th Amendment is for Biden. Scott, you could be right. You could be right because I mean, they may need it with him. He's getting up there, and so maybe it's protective in that sense. But they're going to try and make this about Trump, and it's really kind of unfortunate. The other thing that I was talking to you about before we were so rudely interrupted by either my hand or YouTube. I'm just gonna blame it on YouTube, right? Anyway, commission to repeal presidential term limits. Yes, I think he was actually hacked. If he wasn't, interesting idea. Adam's saying the audio is off. Is that true, guys? Or is my audio is back, right? We're good on audio? You tell me. I'm relying on you, and I will keep checking this thing. Anyway, I think our audio is good here. They want to get rid of Biden. Yeah, they do kind of want to get rid of Biden. Anyway, let's turn to my other big topic that I'm distressed about. And I imagine you are too. And this is sort of this home economics ordeal. I mean, 40% really capital gains tax? That's what Biden and Harris want? I mean, they're saying, oh, it's only for, people making this much money, whatever. It's still 40%. People, when they invest, it's like going to Vegas, right? You're either, you're going to win or you're going to lose. And so they want to charge nearly 40% on any of your winnings. That's pretty egregious. okay? Because we've already paid tax on that money. Now we're taking this risk, investing it in something, and you want 40% of it, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, to spend as you see fit? I mean, that is, thank you, Claudia. I'm glad that you can hear me now. Thank you for all pointing that out. Good on the audio. I mean, come on, guys. You know, this is just classically wrong. Whether it's 40% on capital gains, whether it's upwards of 50% on income, they're talking up to 52% on income. That's just federal, right? And then you're going to have your state and your local and everything. And then you know, they say, oh, well, this is going to be great because we have all this money to do free college and free healthcare and free housing and a monthly stipend and all these goodies. Well, the money's going to come from somewhere. And when you tax this much, here's what they don't understand. The ripple effect of higher taxes. They're taking small business taxes from 21 to 28%. You know, the big businesses are going to find a workaround. They're going to be able to get out of that easy peasy, right? Because they just offshore, they're like, okay, I'm going to incorporate in Ireland now. And I'll pay 12%. It's the LLCs, it's the small mom and pop businesses. They don't have a workaround. They don't have the fancy accountants. They're gonna pay the full 28%. So you're penalizing the very people that you're supposedly trying to help. And this ripple effect means you're gonna make the whole economy shrink. Hey, I bet you don't know this. Maybe you do if you've been listening to me, because I like to point this out. You know that during the Trump years, we had higher tax receipts than we've ever seen. So he lowered taxes and we got the highest tax receipts in the history of this country. Think about that, right? That's that Laffer curve from Art Laffer, great economist, good friend of mine, who created that during the Reagan years. And basically what he figured out was there's this like sweet spot where people do want to work and businesses will produce and pay taxes so long as you don't get too onerous in it. Wealthy people will be fine regardless. They always find ways. Yeah, I mean, I just think that you've got to think about the middle class in this environment. And so if you're going to shrink the overall economy, you're running the risk now of putting American families in jeopardy of less income. Good report out from UChicago professor there, Casey Mulligan, that I'm going to cite for you because his analysis looks at the Biden tax plan and determines that the average American family would lose up to $8,000 in income under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I mean, why are we talking about losing incomes? During the Trump administration, we grew median incomes. In fact, there was a great poll out today, the Gallup poll, and they said, hey, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And guess what? More people are better off now. That's what they answered. Imagine that, even with coronavirus going on. So why are they going to take us in a different direction? We have a quarterly GDP, the economy growing at 33%, it's expected by the Atlanta Fed this quarter. We've got unemployment at 7.9%. I know it's not great, right? And we still have a lot to do, but you're going to throw out capitalism, right? You're going to say to heck with that. But I want to turn to savings, which is a big problem as well right now. You know, home economics is actually a topic that I find incredibly important and incredibly, you know, underreported on. And also, it's sad to see that so many schools don't bother to teach kids this stuff, right? Like how to balance a checkbook or what, you know, the credit card is or what interest rates are or how the Fed relates to mortgage rates and credit cards, et cetera. And this is something that we actually need to care about because we need financial literacy for the population. And I think if we had this better financial literacy, we would have better values in the way of savings, in the way of investment, and in the way of families and family units. I mean, as I've said, right, it's very hard to talk about things like families and the importance of families. But the reality is, two parents are always better. I'm sorry, not always. You know, if it's a really, really bad household, I get it. But in general, it's a better outcome for the child if there are two parents there in a household. And so there's a lot that we should be thinking about in terms of home economics. How do people plan for the future? How do they plan their retirement? I think part of COVID has taught us, right, that we really need to focus inward right now. And we need to think about what do we want and what do we need? What do we want and what do we need? And there's, you know, a distinguishing line there. And I think too recently we've gotten away from that. right? And frankly, government encourages us to get away from it. And consumer spending, I get it, it's 2/3 of overall economy. But wouldn't it be nice if maybe the government, say, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, maybe they punished consumption instead of earnings? And maybe they should punish consumption instead of investment or savings. I mean, the way they have everything, their priorities aligned, we're not encouraged to save. You're not encouraged, by the way, to even be married per the tax code. You'd be better off separate. I mean, that's just messed up and it's wrong. And you're saying you're so old now. I knew when it was greatest World War II generation was gone, their individual selfless love died with them. Oh, I am convinced now that this is the greatest experiment in freedom is now over. See, that generation also understood, Goober, also understood the importance of family and the importance of savings. And those are values that we've just completely abandoned. And there's this idea of entitlement that somehow the government is supposed to be there for you. The government is supposed to give you your handout during coronavirus. Now, look, government should be there when people really need it. But as a society, shouldn't we be trying to do everything we can to encourage people not to have to rely on the government, to try and be self-sufficient? And part of that means encouraging people to stay in their family unit. Again, there's tax incentives you could use. Instead of tax incentivizing people to be separate, you could be, looking at tax incentives to keep them together. I don't know if you guys heard this or not, because I don't know if the microphone was working earlier when I talked about how I had written a piece a couple years ago in USA Today. The numbers are probably worse now, but back then it was over 40% of children in this country now being born to single parents. And I think there's some economic consequence with that. If you don't have household formation, if you don't have family formation, those kids are going to live in a more challenging environment. The women that are raising them are living in a far more challenging environment with much more pressure on them. Claudia's saying 40%. Yeah, this is just, this is really too bad, because we have not done enough as a society. We've just increasingly, and I think the intentions of government were good, right? Lyndon Johnson and anti-poverty and the creation of welfare and all these things, they were trying to do what they thought was the right thing, but it's the law of unintended consequences. And something happened on the way to the forum, and basically what they've wound up with is it is a society that's encouraged to not really engage in having the strong family unit. And so now you have a much more challenging environment for these single mothers. 40% of kids are being born to single moms. And so to me, all of this is sort of entwined, right? Savings, investment, our future, lower taxes, getting ourselves away from that big government. And that's why I look at these two plans, right, that are in front of us, whether it be Harris-Biden or whether it be Pence and Trump. You've got two distinctly different choices. And as much as the left wants to make it about personality, it's really not. It's really about the direction of our future. And I'm sorry, I'm going to choose to rely on myself every time as opposed to relying on the government. I just think that is part of who we are and should continue to be who we are. I'm just looking at Johnson knew exactly what he was doing, Peter saying. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to make sure I don't get in trouble with the YouTube police again, because we want to keep my sound on. Look, it was a real, I think when you look back on it, what we realized, and hey, Bill Clinton realized it, it was a mistake. And again, I'm not saying that government shouldn't be there, but we have to think long and hard about incentives and risk, reward. And I know how challenging it is for people. It looks like maybe a coronavirus stimulus may not happen. I'm still surprised at that, actually, because I think that these are politicians and they're political animals, and they'll try and get something done even if it's at the 11th hour. So I wouldn't entirely give up hope. They say it's off, but we'll see. But at the same time, I'm looking at it saying, at some point we have to recognize, right, what's happening. And the more you interfere in the free marketplace, the more problems you have. They're talking about bailing out the airlines now, another $25 billion bailout. And it almost feels like the airlines are kind of holding us hostage. They're saying, well, if you don't bail us out and give us another $25 billion, then we're going to have to fire all these people. what the airlines need to think about is putting the onus on the investors in the airlines themselves. So many of these companies have very, very big market caps. So they could actually, they could find a way to get the money without having to come knock on taxpayers' doors. But, people just aren't that creative. And by the way, if you can get the money from government, why not? Right? If taxpayers are going to bail you out, hey, why not? But the truth is, you've got bloated big airlines that were making our lives miserable, right? Crammed in like sardines, cutting corners however they could, giving you a bag of peanuts instead of a meal. And and they're gonna lose business, and their business model is not really gonna work as long as coronavirus is in existence. And so they're gonna have to think about how to restructure. And again, I kind of feel like the onus should be on them, and it should be on shareholders. And I don't want to see anybody lose their job, but the more you kind of hold these things up, the more problematic it becomes. And we saw this in the 1930s with FDR. I mean, Amity Shlaes wrote a great book on this called The Forgotten Man. And what she talks about are the policies that were in place that actually really prohibited business from being back up and running and really hurt the average American. Ford has made sure that they have the cash on hand to get through this. Ford is impressive. Ford was also the one that didn't take the bailout, remember, during the Obama years. The airlines know that they can get what they want because they're an important mode of long-distance transportation. Yeah, I guess if you've got some routes there that the government is making you do, then you kind of have a right to say, hey, I need a little help. But, the other stuff might be kind of superfluous. Knowledge is power. Wisdom is priceless. We have James Redman, our philosopher, here with us tonight. Anthony writing, if we bail out the airlines, we should get discount tickets. We need interest on our investment. Yeah, I mean, it is our investment. You're right. That's exactly right, Anthony. It's our money. And if we're there bailing them out, what is in it for us? I don't think there's anything in it for us the way that we should all become shareholders, right, in American Airlines, if that's the case. Lou writing, fees passed to consumers for regulatory compliance are taxed without representation. Yeah. I mean, for sure. Listen, I am not a fan of the airlines. And there's one airline in particular that I'm definitely not a fan of. I've never used my Twitter account to complain, except American Airlines really got to me on my last trip with them. And I say it was my last trip. It was about a year and a half ago, and it was my last trip. I don't think I will ever take American Airlines willingly again. Just a total disaster from beginning to end. And so, the airlines, they've got a lot of work to be done in general. This has highlighted all of it. And what I would advise is for them to look at actually restructuring in this environment and going to the free markets and getting investors to cop up the money, not coming and knocking on the door, hat in hand, to individuals. I mean, why is it that American Airlines or, Delta or any of the rest of them should get a check when, the mom and pop dry cleaners that, by the way, doesn't really have any business anymore because nobody's going to work the way they used to. You don't have as much dry cleaning. Why don't they get a bailout? Why don't they get a check? It doesn't seem entirely fair. The New Deal was the biggest sellout of America. And I love this audience. Peter, putting the dirt on the grave. Obama sold out to China while Biden cheered. You guys are great. You guys and I are on the same page. The New Deal was not all it was cracked up to be, but it's funny how history portrays it, right? He's really seen as such a hero. And I would only point out again, if you look at the Obama years, the poor and the middle class did not do as well. They saw their incomes go down. But if you look at 2016 through 2019, in the Trump administration, lower taxes, less regulation, and a little bit more optimism, well, what do you know? Incomes for middle class and for poor Americans actually went up, the most that they had in decades. So I think that actually speaks volumes about what's happening. And I think that this policy is so incredibly important. To me, it's not personality. To me, it's all about what are you going to do for our economy? What are you going to do for us or not do for us internationally? And that's actually what should matter. I don't like the idea of selling out to China. CEOs, it's too easy for them. They don't have the same sort of long-term horizon, right, that a country should have. Because they'll go over there, they'll sell out, and they're happy to just do business because they're collecting all the revenue. You're saying if Biden wins, how can we fix this mess? Constitutional Convention. You know, it's not going to be easy to fix this mess. I think we're going to have to wait for 2 years, right? You're going to have to see a shift in Congress. It's not just if Biden wins, because I think the problem is, you know, if Biden wins but the Republicans keep the Senate, then he's not going to be able to get anything done. And so that's good. But if Biden wins and he gets the Senate and then he gets the House, well, then it's going to be really problematic, because that's when they're able to do all these crazy things that they're looking at. And I think at that point, enough of us will be talking in forums like this or wherever we can, right? By the way, if you haven't downloaded the podcast, I'm just giving a little plug for that, because it's another way that we can all communicate and I can reach you. The podcast comes out every day. It's called Trish Intel. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple iTunes. It's on iHeartRadio. It's on my website, trishintel.com, which has some maintenance going on right now. So if anybody goes to it, you'll see that. But these are places you can get the podcast. But I think if he actually wins, and if they get the Senate and then they get the House, then we're looking at an environment where we really need to communicate, and it's got to be a grassroots efforts effectively to really try and flip the House in 2 years' time, because otherwise, you know, there's a lot of risk in terms of our freedoms that will be trampled upon in that environment. Very problematic, Peter says, keep your powder dry, wink, wink. You know, I was thinking about this today, though, and I was actually talking with an investor about this, because seriously, 40%, it's like 39.6% that he wants capital gains to go to. You know what's going to happen then if he wins? People are going to pull all their money out of the market, and then they're just going to sit tight. And they're going to sit tight until he's gone or until the Senate reverses something, because if they get 39.6%, then you know, nobody's going to want to actually put money into the market. And so if nobody wants to put money in, then, you know, good luck. Good luck. That's all I can say. And I'm like, where do they get this stuff? Where do they get their economists that are coming up with these crazy ideas? Anyway, if Biden wins, we're going to have some serious catching up to do, Jake says. Yeah. Look, it may not happen. I'll tell you, 2016 was one of those times when, you know, I remember being on a call with the Fox News decision desk, and they told me that and this was like 5 o'clock in the evening, they told everyone that it was going to be an early night, that Hillary Clinton had it, hands down, winner, and that we would be all wrapped up by 9 o'clock. So I had just given my kids dinner, and I was going back into the studio, and I thought, okay, well, you know, I might actually be home at a decent hour tonight. And then, you know, I think I wandered in around 3 or 4 a.m. and Donald Trump was president of the United States. So all those polls were so off. The exit polls that they had data on, they were so flawed. They were so off. Nobody was willing to say what they were really doing. So that could happen again. It may well happen again. But then we're going to have to deal with the constitutional crisis that's going to ensue, because Hillary Clinton has already promised us she is not voting, or forgive me, she is not going to allow, or Joe Biden should not allow Trump to win, so that he should not concede under any circumstances. And I think if you get into that scenario, then for sure we're back in banana republic territory. Anyway, let me read this. Actress, do you think Trump is going to reset back to the gold standard? I don't think so, Lou. I don't think so. And in fact, I would also say that I'm a little concerned about the Federal Reserve, because they've kind of abandoned, if you would, their preference to watch and guard against inflation. So they're like, okay, inflation, bring it on. And you know, once inflation starts, it's kind of hard to stop. Granted, they really haven't had it in the real economy. I'll tell you where they've had it, though. They've had it in asset prices. And this is part of the haves and have-nots economy. Barack Obama basically created a divided economy. And I also blame Ben Bernanke. He had a hand in that as well as Janet Yellen, as well as Alan Greenspan. All of them basically just, you know, had the Fed printing money. So if you had assets invested in the stock market, you did great. But there was no fundamental change, right, in what they were trying to do. And don't forget, Obama kept telling us this was the new normal, right? He did that interview with Steve Croft on 60 Minutes. This is the new normal. We just have to expect it. Robert is asking for the gold standard to be bad. You said the gold standard is bad. Yeah, well, the gold standard makes it tough, right? Because, you don't have as much liquidity. And you'd have to have an awful lot of gold, I think, nowadays, given how much in the way of US dollars is out there. But anyway, so he created this two-tiered economy by, allowing the Fed, of course, to do what it did. And it's not like he allowed it. The Fed felt like it had to do it, right? Because there was no other game in town, and Barack Obama came up with that lousy $800 billion stimulus to nowhere. I mean, we got nothing for it. And he told us we should just accept this 1.8% annualized growth. And the reality that incomes weren't really going up and our economy really wasn't going to improve and all the jobs were going to China. I was reading an article today from 2012. There was a dinner that he had done, I think it was 2012 or 2010, with Steve Jobs. And he said, like, how can we get these jobs back? And Steve Jobs said to him, now late Steve Jobs, he said, they're not coming back. They're gone to China. They're not coming back. Well, you know what? America's not willing to accept that. We're not willing to say our time has come and gone. No. That's not in our personality. It's not in our DNA to just like say, forget about it. We want those jobs. We want to continue to be the world's largest economy. And so we will. And Donald Trump came out of nowhere and he said, you don't have to accept that. You guys have the wrong policy, the wrong trade policy. You're sending all these jobs to Mexico and into China so that corporations and CEOs who don't have any interest other than their quarterly bottom line or their daily stock price so that they can benefit. Well, how about thinking about the people for a change? And that resonated. And it resonated in such a massive way. I think it's still resonating, but, let's be clear, our country's been through a lot. They have put us through a lot, whether it was, the spying on the Trump campaign initially, which then led to the whole Russia investigation and the Mueller report, whether it was the, Ukraine conversation, they impeached him over a phone call. And now with the 25th Amendment, they're talking about getting rid of him because they say he's incapacitated because he's had COVID. I mean, it's just been almost too much for people. So we'll see. I mean, I hope that they feel enthusiastic enough to vote again for policy and to vote for capitalism and to vote for freedom, because these are the things that are on the line. I love how you guys like talking about the gold standard. Gold standard would be bad for USA. The globalists have stolen trillions of dollars in the last 20 years. President Trump will claw back in a second term. Listen, I think if he gets a second term, it's good news for our economy, okay? It's good news because it still means lower taxes, less regulation, the right incentives in place. We're doing okay. Again, Atlanta Fed predicting 33% growth for this quarter. So if they just get out of the way, they let us go back to doing what we know how to do. Take care of the people we need to take care of, right? Don't expose people unnecessarily if they have pre-existing conditions or if they're elderly. Do everything you can to protect them, but let everybody else get back in action. Look at Florida, right, versus California, and you look at Disney in California and in Florida. In California, they're talking about laying off 28,000 people at Disney. At Florida, Disney's running. I mean, there are ways to be smart about this, and it just requires a little more input and a little bit more hard work, frankly, from some of these leftist governors. Durham and Barr need to rest. We'll see whether or not that happens. They're talking about not really having all that information. But again, it's important that the president make sure that we all know exactly what happened. And so by unclassifying all those documents, I think it's going to be a big game changer. Anyway, it's really good to see you guys tonight. And thank you for telling me about the audio. I am definitely going to watch my hands, keep them clear of the computer. I appreciate all your input. And do know, David, thank you. I love Florida. In fact, that was my last trip. Right before COVID, I had just been down in Miami to give a speech there, and I had taken my kids and my parents with me. We had a wonderful time, and that was it. I haven't traveled anywhere since then, so very good. Have a really good night, and do know that if I always read these messages, so if for some reason I have not called you out or responded to you now, I will get a chance to see it later tonight. So thank you so much, and let's do this again.